The purchase. The dusty sun beat down on the small frontier town of Clearwater, painting the crooked wooden buildings in a shade of dull gold. Horses shuffled nervously at the hitching posts, their reins slack and worn. A few townsfolk lingered on porches, their eyes following the tall, broad-shouldered cowboy who had just ridden in. His hat brim shaded eyes that had seen too many years alone. Jonas McGraw had always been a solitary man. He had worked cattle across the territories, fought off rustlers, and slept under more stars than roofs. But lately, the silence of his empty ranch gnawed him more than the howl of coyotes ever had. He wasn't looking for company, not exactly, but life had a way of leading a man where he least expected. That morning, he had heard whispers in the saloon. "That widow and her children, her in-laws are selling 'em like livestock." "Ain't right." Jonas had stood there, whiskey untouched, his jaw tightening. He'd seen cruelty in his time, but the thought of a woman and 6 children being bargained off like cattle sickened him. Curiosity, and something deeper, something he didn't name, pushed him toward the edge of town. Outside the livery barn, a group had gathered. The children stood close together, 6 of them, from a gangly boy near Jonas's waist height to a girl who couldn't have been older than 4, clutching a ragged doll. Their mother stood a step behind them, tall and tired-looking, her hair hastily braided, eyes shadowed but defiant. In front of them, 2 thick-set men barked prices at the crowd. "7 mouths here, and we're done with 'em," one sneered. "She ain't no use to us, lazy and broke, just like her brats." Jonas's hands curled into fists. The mother flinched but didn't bow her head. He saw strength in her even as the men tried to grind her dignity into the dirt. "How much?" Jonas asked, his voice cutting through the murmurs. The crowd turned. The in-laws eyed him suspiciously. "You serious, cowboy?" one of them asked. "You buy the lot, you take on their hunger too." Jonas pulled a leather pouch from his saddlebag and tossed it at their feet. Coins spilled out, glittering in the dust. "That's enough to keep you in whiskey for a year. Now hand 'em over." The men hesitated only a moment before greed lit their faces. They spat, shook hands with Jonas, and left without a backward glance. Silence hung heavy. The woman pulled her children close. Jonas tipped his hat. "You're free of them now," he said simply. The eldest boy, maybe 13, stepped forward. "What do you want from us, mister?" Jonas paused, looking at the boy's straight spine, the girl's frightened eyes, the mother's guarded stance. "Nothin'," he said at last. "Just thought it was time someone treated you decent." The mother's lips parted, but no words came. She was used to bargains that cost her soul. This was something else entirely. "Name's Jonas McGraw," he continued. "I got land a ways out, plenty of food and space. You're welcome to come, least until you figure what you want." The children exchanged uncertain glances. Their mother placed a hand on her eldest's shoulder. Her voice was soft but steady. "My name is Clara. These are my children, Samuel, Joseph, Martha, Eliza, Ruth, and Anna." Jonas nodded once. "Good to meet you." They followed him hesitantly, the children clambering into his wagon while Clara sat stiffly on the edge, her eyes scanning the horizon as though expecting her in-laws to come back. The ride was quiet, broken only by the creak of wagon wheels and the children's whispered questions. Jonas kept his gaze ahead, giving them space. By the time they reached his ranch, dusk had settled, and the children's faces lit up at the sight of a sturdy house and barns standing against the wide prairie. "Take your time," Jonas told Clara as he helped her down. "This place ain't much, but it's safe." For the first time that day, her shoulders eased just slightly. She whispered, "Safe, that's more than we've had in years." Chapter 2. Please, marry our mother. Life at the McGraw Ranch changed quickly. In the mornings, Samuel and Joseph followed Jonas into the barn, eager to learn the rhythm of feeding livestock and mending fences. Martha and Eliza helped Clara in the kitchen, though Jonas noticed Clara always tried to do most of the work herself, as if afraid of being a burden. Ruth and little Anna trailed Jonas everywhere, their small voices filling the empty silence he had once grown so accustomed to. Days stretched into weeks. Slowly, laughter returned to the house. Jonas found himself pausing outside the door some evenings, listening to the children's chatter by the fire, his heart oddly full. But Clara remained distant. Grateful, yes, and quietly respectful, but always holding herself apart, like a bird ready to flee if the cage door opened. Jonas didn't press. He knew better than to rush a woman who had lived too long under the shadow of cruelty. One late evening, after the children had gone to bed, Jonas found Samuel and Joseph waiting on the porch. Their faces were solemn. "Mr. McGraw," Samuel began, his voice trembling with the weight of words too big for his age. "We been talking. We don't want you to think we're ungrateful." Jonas frowned. "I don't. You've all done more work than I ever asked." Joseph glanced toward the door, then blurted, "Please marry our mother." Jonas's breath caught. He stared at the boys, sure he had misheard. "What?" Samuel squared his shoulders. "She deserves someone kind. Someone who won't treat her like dirt. You saved us, and her. We see the way you look out for her. You could give her back the life she lost." Jonas rubbed a hand over his face. "Boys, marriage ain't a decision children should carry. That's between your mother and me." Joseph's eyes filled with tears, though he fought to hide them. "We just don't want her to be lonely no more. She tries to smile, but we see it. She's scared she'll lose everything again." The door creaked. Clara stood there, pale in the lamplight, her hand pressed to her chest. She had heard every word. Jonas's gaze met hers. Something unspoken passed between them, pain, hope, the fragile possibility of healing. "I never asked them to say that," she whispered, her voice trembling. "But they're right. I've lived too long in fear, too long without kindness. You gave us back our dignity, Jonas." He stepped closer, his rough hands gentle as he tipped his hat back. "Clara, I didn't buy you for myself. I only wanted you safe. But if there's something more you want—" Her eyes glistened. "I want a home. I want a man I can trust. My children already see you as one." For a long moment, the night was silent save for the crickets. Then Jonas reached for her hand, calloused fingers closing around hers. "Then maybe," he said softly, "it's time I stopped being a lonely cowboy." The children peeked from the window, breathless with anticipation. When Clara didn't pull away, when instead she let a tearful smile break across her face, their whispered cheers filled the house. The family Jonas had never expected was suddenly his. Not by bargain or by accident, but by choice. And as the prairie winds howled beyond the porch, Jonas knew the ranch would never be empty again.